Chapter 390 Awakening, Fusion, Evil Demon Forest. Nan Shui glanced at her and said, You've never been able to keep secrets. Telling you is equivalent to telling the entire continent. Forget it. When Huo Yuao wakes up, I'll follow all of you to the Tang Sect if he's fine. This is a top secret of our sect, and we can only share it with the sect leader of the Tang Sect. Nan Qikai twisted her lips and seemed very displeased. At this moment, a strong wave of soul power caught their attention, and they both turned towards Huo Yuao at the same time. The light from the seven-colored barrier slowly weakened, and the huge vertical eye behind Huo Yuao that had disappeared resurfaced again. The sunray patterns around the eye of destiny on his forehead became weaker, and his eye of destiny, which was shining with intersecting black and white lights, suddenly revealed a gentle charm. A gentle rose gold color subtly appeared in this vertical eye. The black and white lights intersected before attracting, turning into a pupil. Even though they only took one glance at it, Nan Shui and Nan Qikai felt like their spirits had been pulled out of their bodies. Nan Shui's reaction was extremely fast. She quickly lifted her hands and covered her and her daughter's eyes. The weakening seven-colored barrier suddenly became stronger just as it looked like it was going to disappear. Following this, it turned into a seven-colored beam that shot into the sky. Suddenly, a pleasant voice echoed in the air. The visible sky had turned completely golden at this moment. The earth was set off by the sky and turned golden too. Huo Yuao's body seemed as if it were made of pure gold, and his eye of destiny turned back to black and white. It was as if death and life took turns flashing in his eye. The transformations in the sky didn't last too long. Suddenly, the golden sky seemed to turn into clouds, which rapidly spun around. The golden light retracted and changed into a huge golden funnel. It started to gather towards Huo Yuao's head, which formed the center. The golden light disappeared, and Huo Yuao's vertical eye returned to its rose gold color, while heaven and earth turned black and white. It was a very strange process. Even Nan Shui, who was a soul Douluo and wielded the annihilation element, felt like she was being strangled and couldn't breathe. During this short process, she became even more determined to work closely with the Tang Sect. She saw the Tang Sect's unlimited potential in the future through the strange occurrences that kept happening to Huo Yuao. Suddenly, a ball of golden light appeared above Huo Yuao's head and charged towards the sky. A black slit was torn open in the air, and the golden light quickly entered this slit. As the slit closed up, the golden light disappeared. Nan Shui and Nan Qikai only roughly saw that the golden light was in the shape of a small beast. On a mountain peak that extended all the way to the clouds, a towering ancient castle. In a quiet room, a ravishing beauty lay quietly and peacefully on a bed. She was beautiful and quiet. Her white dress accentuated her powdery blue straight hair, making it seem even more dazzling and eye-catching. Her fingers were crossed, both her hands on her chest. No matter what angle one looked at her from, she seemed perfect. It was a pity that she was too quiet. If not for the slight rise and fall of her chest, she would seem like the perfect sculpture. Suddenly, everything in the room started to distort slightly. It felt as if a scorching flame had just swept past, and the air started to ripple. A black slit appeared as ripples formed in the air. Following this, a streak of golden light drifted down and gradually landed on this young lady's chest, before slowly fusing with it. Suddenly, there was an additional golden halo around her. Her powder blue long hair started to light up with a glow of the same color, resonating with the streak of golden light on her chest. That streak of golden light slowly took form and turned into a long, golden staff, or rather a long, golden handle, drifting in the air. An image of a golden trident also surfaced on her forehead. That golden trident started to shine brightly and changed into a streak of golden light drifting up. This streak of golden light turned into the head of a trident and slowly linked up with the golden handle in the air. When the handle and the head of the trident connected, the entire room turned golden. Amid the intense golden light, a blue butterfly subtly opened up its wings. A golden dragon slowly revolved around it. The young lady was still sleeping very soundly. The outside world didn't seem to affect her at all. However, her straight hair started to slowly curl and formed wavy shapes. Heaven and earth slowly regained the color they had lost, as if a sketch was being painted with colors. Huo Yuao's strange, yet terrifying vertical eye also slowly shut, and his forehead was smooth again. Huo Yuao slowly opened his eyes again. His eyes appeared shinier and more ethereal. Kiwa, Kiwa, Kiwa. As he called 3 times, he also seemed to jolt himself awake. 2 streams of tears flowed down from his bright eyes. Nan Shui and Nan Qikai were astonished that his tears glowed a faint gold. They shone brightly under the illumination of the sunlight. A spiritual intent filled with sorrow started to spread from him. Nan Qikai's tears also started to flow uncontrollably after a momentary daze as she was affected by this spiritual intent of his. Nan Shui's expression changed in astonishment. The intent that he reveals unwittingly can even influence people around him. Qikai is almost at the level of a soul emperor. However, she can't even resist it. His spiritual power must be very great. Nan Shui was certain that Huo Yuao's spiritual power was greater than hers. Even if he had just obtained his 6th soul ring, he should still only be a soul emperor. However, he was able to leave her so terrified, even though she was a soul Douluo. This was something unheard of in the world of soul masters. She didn't even see what Huo Yuao did. He just drifted gently to the ground. When he looked over, the tears in his eyes suddenly changed into countless ice flowers that scattered away. An icy light flashed across his eyes before it disappeared. Holy Ghost, Church. He seemed to shout these 3 words from between his teeth. His earlier aloofness instantly turned into a terrifying chill. Even Nan Shui turned pale from the suppression that he produced, and took a step back. Nan Qikai was in a worse state. Her body shook, and she fell to the ground on her butt. Using purely spiritual power to judge this, Nan Shui was stunned to realize that none of the titled Douluo she knew were as dominating as Huo Yuao. She could confirm now that Huo Yuao's abilities couldn't be judged through his soul power. His terrifying spiritual power had already enhanced him to a higher level, and it wasn't just one level. As for how strong he was, that could only be determined by facing him directly. Huo Yuao's expression was very cold as he looked in the direction of Radiant City. However, his eyes were still filled with torment. Kiwa, Kiwa. How can I repay you for everything you've done for me? Huo Yuao stopped crying. When sorrow reached a certain level, tears were unable to flow anymore. After a brief moment, the chill that he released from his body gradually faded away. However, his face turned stiff, and he no longer had any expression on his face. He turned back calmly and looked at Nan Shui and Nan Qikai. Thank you for protecting me. I'm fine. Nan Shui had already lifted her daughter up at this moment. She opened her mouth and wanted to claim that Huo Yuao was definitely not fine. However, she didn't say it. No, she didn't dare to do so. The icy cold look in Huo Yuao's eyes and his indifferent expression caused her to shudder. She was more willing to see a bawling Huo Yuao than she was to see him in this state. There was nothing sadder than a withered heart. Wang Dongge was asleep, and Wang Qiwa had sacrificed herself for him. After being dealt 2 heavy blows, Huo Yuao was already strong if he had not gone. However, he was already at his limit. If he was dealt any further blows, would he collapse? Nan Shui was a sect leader. Although she sighed in her heart, she wasn't as weak as her daughter. She walked in front of Huo Yuao and didn't discuss anything related to Wang Qiwa. She only asked, Yuao, where are we going next? Huo Yuao seemed to have a plan in mind, and said, Sect leader Nan, you can return with Qikai first. I need to go to a place first before I return to the Tang Sect. Nan Shui said, no words can express my gratitude. I also have a few things to discuss with your sect leader. You can get busy with your stuff first. I'll send Qikai back to the Tang Sect, and let's meet at the Tang Sect later. Huo Yuao nodded. All right, I'll need to trouble you to tell my eldest senior that I'm fine, and that I'll return soon. After this, tell him that Qiwa was the auspicious beast in the Great Stardo Forest, and she sacrificed herself for me. I'm afraid that the soul beasts in the forest will take revenge. The academy must take precautions. After I complete one more task, I'll return. Nan Shui wore a gentle look as she looked at him and said gently, Kid, don't be too hard on yourself. You must always look forward. Let's go to the Tang Sect immediately. Take the words that you said back. Huo Yuao was in a daze as he looked at Nan Shui's gentle gaze. He suddenly felt that he had seen his mother's face. Instantly, he was about to tear up, and struggled to stop himself from calling out for his mother. He nodded gently and pointed his toes to the ground before turning around and leaping away. He used his butterfly wings as he flew into the distance rapidly. Nan Qikai walked a few steps to her mother's side. Mom, can't I follow him? His current condition. Nan Shui sighed gently and and said, he's much tougher than you imagine. This kid is bound to achieve lots of success in the future if he can overcome this psychological barrier. He'll definitely be a leading figure that can terrorize the entire continent. Perhaps these ordeals are the best whetstones to shape him into a great character. The rims of Nan Kikayu's eyes turned a bit red, and she said, it's just that this is too cruel. The person he loves is unconscious, and the person who loves him died for him. If I were him, I would have already broken down. Nan Shui hugged her daughter and said, this is why you're not him. You'll never reach the heights that he'll reach in the future. I just hope that you'll do your best to chase after him as you remain by his side. After some time, you'll discover that you've widened the gap between you and others of the same age, even though you find yourself lagging further and further behind him. Just like I said to him, you must always look forward. Okay. Nan Kikayu seemed to understand something, and snuggled beside her mother. However, her mind kept on returning the teary look in Huo Yuao's eyes before he left. As he unleashed his soul power, Huo Yuao's speed was lightning quick. A formless protective barrier that was formed using his spiritual power helped to resist the strong winds coming from the outside world. No matter whether one used their naked eyes or any type of surveillance cell tool, they wouldn't be able to discover his presence in the air. Right now, Wang Qiu's words before she died kept on playing in Huo Yuao's mind. Everything that she had left behind had already fused with his body. The sixth soul ring of Wang Qiu's eye of destiny couldn't be appraised using its limit, while the soul of destiny was an astonishing soul bone. After he completed his perfect fusion with these strengths that Wang Qiu left behind, he was enhanced until he reached another level entirely. This should be an extremely happy thing to any soul master. However, could Huo Yuao really be happy? Donga was in a deep sleep, but he had never once blamed Wang Qiu for it. When Wang Qiu sacrificed herself for him, he could clearly feel Wang Qiu's apology towards Wang Donga. The more it was like this, the more tormented he felt internally. I learned how humans love each other, but I didn't learn how to forget. I couldn't forget about you. Therefore, I came once I felt that you were in danger. This time, Donga isn't by your side, and we aren't in the yin-yang love querying valley. This time, I will not lose to her anymore. She is in a deep sleep, so there's no way she can compete with me. Actually, I like how you are now, because you won't resist, and just take everything in silence. How I wish I could spend eternity with you like this. Thank you, Yuao, because you have finally told me that there is space for me in your heart. In the end, I didn't waste my experience of that love that humans have. Perhaps I have become more like a human at this point. Thank you, Yuao. Perhaps this is the best outcome for us. No matter what, we will never be separated again. Yes, we'll never be separated again. I fused with everything from you. We'll really never be separated again. Huo Yuao pursed his lips tightly. His immense spiritual power gave him an extraordinary memory. This was why he could clearly recall the entire process of Wang Qiu's sacrifice for him. Wang Qiu used the most extreme method to finally be together with him. It could even be said that she had forced him to be together with her. The sorrow he felt in his heart would never disappear. Qiu, don't worry. I'll continue to live strongly for you and for Donga. You are already a part of my body. By continuing to live strongly, it's the same as you being together with me. I'll protect everything that you've given me. After he finished muttering these words, he gradually retracted the sadness in his eyes. Yes, he had to be strong. It was only by doing so that he wouldn't let down everything that Wang Qiu had done for him. Huo Yuao only wanted to do one thing right now from the depths of his heart. He wanted to go to the Clear Sky Sect to see Wang Donga. He had already lost Wang Qiu, and he really wanted to be by Wang Donga's side and protect her. He wanted to stay with her until she woke up. However, he couldn't do so, at least not now. This was because he had something more important to do. He recalled what Wang Qiu had said to him at the final moments before she died. As the Emperor Beast and God Beast of Destiny, Wang Qiu had offered herself to save Huo Yuao. This greatly affected the entire Great Stardo Forest. There was bound to be some kind of reaction, and it might even catalyze a disaster. He needed to rush back to the forest. It was only by inheriting Wang Qiu's power of destiny that he could settle the core of this issue. The reason why Huo Yuao didn't choose to return to Shrek City with Nan Kikayu and Nan Shui immediately was because he knew that he wasn't strong enough. Even though his spiritual power had been greatly enhanced, he still wasn't strong enough. He wanted to become even stronger. This process wouldn't take too much time either. He wanted to proceed towards a place which wasn't too far from where he had absorbed Wang Qiu's sacrifice. It was a place in the Sun Moon Empire. As Huo Yuao flew, he called, Brother Sky Dream. A streak of dim gold light flashed, and a figure appeared beside him. It was a handsome man with short white hair, curly eyebrows, and golden eyes. There were even golden halos around his body. Yuao. The eyes of this youth looked a little lost, but they were also filled with comfort and gentleness. Yes, this was the human form of the Sky Dream Ice Worm. When Huo Yuao's spiritual power transformed from the concrete immaterial realm to the concrete material realm, the Sky Dream Ice Worm, Ice Empress and Little Snow Lady's spirit had all evolved. Their spiritual bodies were in Huo Yuao's body. As Huo Yuao's spiritual sea evolved, their abilities, or rather the strengths that they had been suppressing for fear of overloading Huo Yuao's spiritual sea, were all released. This was also the reason why the Sky Dream Ice Worm could adopt a human form and use his spiritual power as a foundation to materialize his form next to Huo Yuao. At this moment, the ring on Huo Yuao's finger that was formed using the Sky Dream Ice Worm's spirit had already disappeared. Huo Yuao said, Brother Sky Dream, I'm fine. How far are we? The Sky Dream Ice Worm replied, we should be going in the correct direction. That fellow lives in a forbidden region of the Sun Moon Empire known as the Evil Demon Forest. Although it isn't as huge as the Great Stardo Forest, it's still the largest forest within the borders of the Sun Moon Empire. It's located roughly to the west of the Jingyang mountain range that you've been to before. There shouldn't be any problem as long as you continue flying in that direction. With your current speed, you'll be able to see it in at most 2 hours. All right. Thanks, Brother Sky Dream. Huo Yuao nodded. The Sky Dream Ice Worm sighed and said, do you still have to stand on ceremony with me? Yuao, do your best. All of us believe that you are the best. You were right earlier. It's best to not let Kiwa down by living well. To a certain extent, Kiwa didn't die. She's only spending the rest of her life with you. You are her, and she's you. Yes, I understand. I'll tough it out. Huo Yuao nodded at the Sky Dream Ice Worm again. The Sky Dream Ice Worm gave him a comforting look before turning into a streak of golden light and fusing into his body. Yes, Huo Yuao had to go to the Evil Demon Forest, where the strongest soul beast in the Sun Moon Empire resided. There was an extremely strong soul beast species in that forest, the Evil Eye Tyrants. Their leader was the Evil Eye Tyrant King, who was also known as the Evil Emperor. He was also the only living creature over the past 100,000 years that dared to challenge the beast god Ditian, who was extremely terrifying. Before Huo Yuao proceeded to the Sun Moon Empire, the Sky Dream Ice Worm and Ice Jade Empress Scorpion had already advised him that he should go to the Evil Demon Forest to hunt an Evil Eye Tyrant, which was of a sufficient cultivation to obtain his 6th soul ring. Evil Eye Tyrants were extremely strong spiritual type soul beasts. Huo Yuao's spiritual power wasn't strong enough in the past, but he was qualified now, as his spiritual power had been enhanced. Right now, Huo Yuao had already obtained his 6th soul ring due to Wang Qiu's sacrifice. However, he still needed to go to the Evil Demon Forest. That was because his soul power wasn't at rank 60, but rank 70. After he finished fusing with the origin energy of Ultimate Ice earlier, his soul power had already crossed rank 60. Even he himself didn't know what rank his soul power was at. When he absorbed Wang Qiu's soul ring and soul bone, his spirit eyes fused perfectly with everything from Wang Qiu, as she had offered herself as a sacrifice for him. The immense power of destiny that the Emperor Beast possessed greatly enhanced his soul power. As a result, he immediately discovered that his soul power had reached another bottleneck again, the rank 70 bottleneck. Ever since he had reached rank 50, his soul power had been increasing at an extremely slow pace. He could only cultivate silently as he watched his teammates break through to become soul emperors. With the origin energy of ultimate ice that the Snow Emperor spirit put in him, and his perfect fusion with Wang Qiu, things finally paid off for him. As long as he obtained his 7th soul ring, he could finally make the jump from the mid-tier to the threshold of the top tier and become a soul sage. Huo Yuao was actually very impatient right now. He wanted to return to Shrek quickly. That was because he clearly recalled that Wang Qiu had mentioned that the Great Stardo Forest would react harshly to her death. Whether he returned as a soul emperor or a soul sage wasn't just a concept. He knew that only he was capable of settling this issue. His abilities would carry an important weight in what was to come. That was why he quickly thought of what he had to do. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to proceed towards the Evil Demon Forest, which which was nearby, to obtain his 7th soul ring before returning to Shrek. Wang Qiu's death was bound to leave the savage beasts in the Great Stardo Forest astonished and furious. However, they still needed time if they wanted to take action. The savage beasts in the Great Stardo Forest couldn't just attack Shrek City, as the strength of Shrek Academy would make them think twice. Huo Yuao couldn't predict exactly what was going to happen. He could only try to deal with the situation through the most suitable plan. He was in fact a very emotional person. However, after he fused with this three-eyed golden lion skull, gusts of refreshing cold would seep into his spiritual sea and force him back to his rational state every time he lost control over his emotions. However, this wasn't a comfortable feeling, as his emotions were being suppressed by his rationality. However, Huo Yuao couldn't resist this rationality in the current situation he was in. The crisis that Wang Qiu had brought about was probably more terrifying than the Sun Moon Empire capturing hundreds of hostages, and he would be the most important figure in resolving this crisis. How could he possibly be relaxed? Just as the Sky Dream Iceworm had said, a huge forest appeared within his vision after he flew towards the north for less than 2 hours. The Great Stardo Forest was very close to the center of the Douluo continent, and so it had a temperate climate, but this forest was closer to the north, and thus was coniferous. Furthermore, this coniferous forest was filled with dark grayish branches and leaves. It was extremely dark. Before entering it, a sense of suppression had already swept over him. This was definitely the evil demon forest. Huo Yuao slowly descended from the sky and landed on the ground. Soul masters with common sense wouldn't attempt to fly over a forest where there were many soul beasts. That was no different from suicide. Huo Yuao didn't even stop to analyze the situation. He quickly entered the forest and immediately rushed toward the center of this forest based on the direction that he had determined while in the air earlier. This was self-confidence. His self-confidence in his own abilities. If it was 5 years ago, he would have been very cautious and wouldn't have dared to venture into the forest. However, he was completely different now. He possessed immense spiritual power that surpassed even that of titled Douluo, and the abilities of the god beast of destiny. He was now completely able to summon good fortune and avoid calamities. He didn't need to deliberately unleash his soul skills. His spiritual power was already like a fine web that had been scattered, rapidly spreading into the distance. Very soon, Huo Yuao discovered that the concentration of soul beasts here was greater than in the Jingyang mountain range. It was indeed the place in the Sun Moon continent that had the most soul beasts. To prevent wasting time through fighting, Huo Yuao used to summon Ice Empress. A streak of golden light flashed, and a jade-green figure appeared beside Huo Yuao. This was Huo Yuao's first time seeing the Ice Empress in her human form. Her delicate looks made her seem less arrogant than the mature Snow Empress, but she was much cooler and more elegant. There were 4 streaks of demonic patterns on each of the sides of her captivating, silky white face. Her long dark green hair flowed behind her back, but her snow-white skin looked as if it were transparent. Jade-green light shone beneath her skin. When she appeared, the surrounding temperature started to decline significantly. The Ice Empress' height was similar to Huo Yuao's. She looked very cold, and her gaze only turned gentler when she looked in Huo Yuao's direction. I'll have to trouble you. Huo Yuao nodded slightly to the Ice Empress. Don't worry. The Ice Empress' voice was crisp and pleasant, but there was a chill in it that seemed to originate from her bones. She didn't do anything apart from advancing with Huo Yuao. An aura that was special to the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion was also released from her body. She controlled the aura that she released very well. She didn't unleash it fully. With her cultivation before she fused with Huo Yuao, she might really draw the evil emperor out if she unleashed her real aura. If that happened, there would be huge trouble. She only subtly exuded slight traces of the aura of a 100,000-year soul beast, which managed to suppress and immobilize the nearby soul beasts, who were of weaker cultivations. The soul beasts that were closer to her were even worse off. Huo Yuao could see through his spiritual detection that the soul beasts within a few thousand square meters had all retreated as he advanced. Those who were weak were even paralyzed and collapsed to the ground. Huo Yuao wasn't willing to kill soul beasts because of Wang Qiu. This was why he used the Ice Empress aura. Although the Ice Empress didn't become his spirit like the Snow Empress and Sky Dream Iceworm, she could still materialize into a physical form through Huo Yuao's spiritual power and remain outside of his body for long periods of time. She controlled her own bloodline and aura in Huo Yuao's body, which helped Huo Yuao conserve his energy. Right now, Huo Yuao didn't lack spiritual power. When necessary, the Ice Empress could help him fight. However, she would have to use his soul power to do so. How much of her abilities she could use depended on how much soul power she could take from Huo Yuao. After all, the Ice Empress had given him his Ice Jade, Empress Scorpion, and not his spirit eyes. As for the Sky Dream Iceworm, he could help Huo Yuao fight and use his spiritual power. However, he wasn't very adept at fighting. Rather than ask him to fight, it was better for Huo Yuao to control his own spiritual power to fight. It was just that an extra form of intelligence and control could help Huo Yuao do things ordinary people couldn't at special moments. Huo Yuao was venturing into this forest in a straight line. What he needed to do now was use the shortest time possible to find a soul beast that was suitable to be his 7th soul ring. He would hunt and absorb the soul ring before quickly returning to Shrek. Very soon, he had already passed the outer regions of the forest, and the soul beasts around him gradually became stronger. 100-year soul beasts were everywhere, while 1,000-year soul beasts were occasionally present. It was just that they avoided Huo Yuao and the Ice Empress because of the Ice Empress aura. 4 hours later, Yuao, be careful. We've entered the core region of this forest. There will be 10,000-year soul beasts here. In addition, we might even face stronger existences. Perhaps you can find what you are looking for. The Ice Empress warned Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao also understood what she was saying and nodded. He replied, thanks for your help. I can take over from now. If the Ice Empress continued to stay outside, his presence would become too obvious. There was a high possibility that he might need a strong soul beast as he entered the core region of this forest. Traces of the aura of a 100,000-year soul beast might not deter the soul beasts in this region. On the contrary, it might even attract stronger soul beasts. This was why Huo Yuao decided to adopt a low profile from here on out. A gentle halo formed distorted light patterns around his body. Very soon, he melded with everything around him, and his own aura was also blocked by this halo. It seemed as if he had vanished into thin air. He was still using his spiritual power to unleash his imitation. However, he was truly concealing himself right now. Even if he had to enter Sunrise City again, he could fly into the city without fear of being discovered. Unless he was scanned by a Class 8 surveillance soul tool, or something stronger, it was almost impossible to detect him. In addition, a Class 8 soul engineer was also needed to operate a Class 8 surveillance soul tool capable of detecting him. There weren't too many soul engineers in the entire continent that were at least Class 8. As for soul beasts, only 100,000-year soul beasts would be able to detect him through their own innate gifts. Huo Yuao started to become more cautious as he ventured deeper into this forest. He didn't expand the area that his spiritual detection covered, but shrank it instead. The more experienced one was, the lesser bold he would become. The evil eye tyrants resided in the evil demon forest. They were rare spiritual type soul beasts and were naturally more sensitive to spiritual undulations. As a result, Huo Yuao didn't dare to be careless. His soft-heartedness and carelessness led him into a crisis which eventually cost Wang Qiu her life. He would rather be overly cautious than slip up again. He advanced carefully. Suddenly, there were chaotic undulations of soul power in front of him. There are soul beasts fighting. Huo Yuao thought of something and immediately stopped in his tracks. He quickly retreated a few steps and arrived beside a large tree. Using his imitation, he assimilated himself with his surroundings. His spiritual power had evolved to the concrete material realm. He was confident that only a savage beast could possibly detect him in this position. Otherwise, he couldn't be detected by weaker enemies. Given his imitation, if he didn't shift his position, he could only consider himself unfortunate if the soul power undulations that were getting closer and closer to him came from the evil eye tyrant king. If he was so unfortunate, he wouldn't have benefited from the sacrifice of an emperor beast. Rather, he would have suffered from the sacrifice of a divine morning emperor. The chaotic undulations of soul power were getting closer and closer. Very soon, the creatures who were generating such undulations appeared within the region covered by Huo Yuao's spiritual detection. There are indeed soul beasts fighting. Huo Yuao squinted. It was exactly as he had predicted earlier. The soul beast that was charging in front had thick scales covering its entire body. This soul beast's lower limbs were extremely thick, and it moved in an upright manner. Its upper limbs were short and small. It only had 3 fingers on each limb, but it had sharp claws that shone with cold light. The thick scales on its body were dark blue, and there were at least 3 layers of them. They looked extremely thick. It was 4 meters in height and seemed extremely muscular. Its head was also unusually large and occupied 1/3 of its body. It dragged a thick, 3-meter long tail behind it. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.